Copy, clear. Copy that. Copy, clear. Copy that. Copy 1 minute. Copy clear. Copy that. We are in the backup ship and do not have sky maps today. Copy that. Clear.
Others who've ignored them and others who've been a little bit more belligerent, so a little bit of a mixed crowd, but from what we can tell here, this situation here at Wacker and Dearborn starting to dissipate. You've got the line of cops here on bicycle blocking the way up north on the bridge, and so some of these demonstrators just starting to move away, and we are on the tail end of the protest. I know Trey has been closer to the front end, so we wanted to get a certain sense of what's going on this end of it, which is starting to wind down just a little bit.
So, Eric, I noticed a lot more bikes are starting to join in this demonstration. Also, it looks like now they have some of the streets and sanitation trucks that are moving in, as well as it looks like now Wacker Drive is open in the east or west direction. So that is some progress. And we did see just moments ago behind you, maybe about 7 or 8 police cars with their lights blinking, maybe kind of escorting the crowd out of the downtown areas. Not quite sure which direction they were going, but we hadn't seen that in the past hour and a half watching. And now we can start seeing more police. I think there's some police right behind you, Eric. You've got some sergeants as well. If you see the streets and sand truck that's moving in kind of close to you, and there's several police officers we can see now there on Dearborn of State Street.
Yeah, right here at Wacker, we've got a streets and sand salt truck right here. And actually, if you look off in the distance a little bit, we've got some of these protesters going north on the Clark Street Bridge. So it appears that police are letting them go north of the river, which, as I had mentioned, was something that police did not want to do in the past. But from what we can tell, we do have some protesters walking north on the bridge here, followed by a pretty large group of police officers here on Wacker Drive, and no doubt more police officers in front of those demonstrators who are walking north. So it's sort of a fluid situation still. We're going to try to catch up with these protesters. As I mentioned, we're sort of on the tail end of it to try to get a better sense of how this is evolving, but it continues to evolve here at pushing 7:30 at night.
Yep, we'll let you get on the move, and we'll continue to monitor your location. You can see traffic by Eric is moving slowly outside our studio. State Street is once again open. But Cheryl, you were noticing earlier when we first started our coverage, when they were over by like Lakeshore Drive, they seemed to be walking in like a square, or they didn't really know. And so the strategy may be here, let them walk. Let them kind of separate, and then this might slowly dissolve. And now they're going north, and that might be what happened, or what's happening as it thins out a little bit.
And something, Rob, that I noticed, we've done many of these before. They used to lift those bridges up.
Oh, they did? There was a time they did, yeah.
And to direct them so that they would not go into the north location. I see one of our cameramen, Jose, there walking. And now they are crossing all of these bridges. And of course, there was some construction going on in the bridge that's not far from State and Lake Street here downtown. So there's already traffic in the area. Trey is now at Hubbard and Dearborn, and he has an update on the ground, from the ground view. Trey.
Yeah, we're here on Hubbard and Dearborn, and we're seeing really this demonstration winding down, as you guys said earlier. Chicago police still manning this protest. And it seems to be developing as we speak. Again, we mentioned this earlier. It seems as though the crowds are kind of walking in circle. So now we found ourselves now in front of this crowd that made it across the Chicago River. Again, it's still winding down as we speak. But earlier today, what was mostly a peaceful demonstration turned violent for a few minutes. We do want to show you a video of when we saw a driver in a burgundy vehicle go through a large crowd near State and Monroe and kept going. That crowd parted just in time, allowing that car to speed through. Then we saw Chicago police give a thumbs up. We were just steps away from what could have been a disastrous and deadly collision. Instead, we didn't see any injuries. That car kept going. We are reaching out to Chicago police to figure out if that person was caught in all of this. But then seconds after that happened, the marchers gathered again and continued on. We're seeing thousands of people right now. Again, we're at Hubbard and Dearborn. They've made their way across the Chicago River, and they're continuing along here, joined with Chicago police kind of manning the traffic. As you can see, traffic is stopped on both sides of us right now on a busy day today and a busy evening. Chicago police kind of ushering this crowd along and through the streets, but it hasn't been a clear destination. It seems as though these thousands of people are kind of just walking and just being allowed through wherever they can while they're still speaking out against what they're saying is unjust immigration enforcement and practices coming down from the Trump administration. So again, we were at first behind the crowd. Now it seems as though the front of that crowd has come around us, but it's still again dwindling. Already, you're seeing just a few people behind us passing through Dearborn and Kinsey here, of course, with profanity. Again, we do want to mention that emotions have been running high in response to what's happening in Los Angeles and what we've seen last week in the South Loop when immigration enforcement went into an immigration facility and arrested multiple people there. So this is all in the wake of that. Another wave of protesters right now already gathering here, and we know this is all multiple organizations a part of this, not just anti-ICE protesters. I also saw organizers who I met a month ago doing the pro-Palestinian rallies. So different people, different organizations coming out here, speaking out against the Trump administration. But at this hour, it seems as though it's still dwindling. We're still seeing a lot of messages, a lot of emotions, and a lot of people just want to make sure that their voices are heard, and seemingly safely. Again, Chicago police have been on scene. They've been ushering them safely through while traffic has been at a standstill at affected areas. So we're not seeing any clashes, and if so, it was dealt with within minutes, and then it continued. Yep. Now, again, we are at the tail end of this demonstration here. So
right.
We're seeing many
that was
people
wild,
leaving.
Trey. Apologies for some of the foul language that we see behind you. Obviously, you can't control that. Want our viewers to know we can't either. But that live television is a fascinating thing. There you are telling us you're at the end of this protest, and then a minute later you show down the street, here they come again. I think, Trey, that's a great example of what you've been seeing tonight, right? Which is kind of meandering through the streets of Chicago after that Federal Plaza protest. I mean, you've been just about on every block down here, right? You just keep kind of moving around, and then they come right back toward you.
Yeah, absolutely. It started at Federal Plaza. We went down Michigan. We came through Dearborn, Wabash, down State Street in front of the ABC 7 studios. We're now across from the Chicago River. And again, just like that, traffic is moving just safely. So that just shows how effective Chicago police are here as they're handling this developing situation. The tail end allows the traffic to then come through. They're also in front of the rally and in front of the moving protest, so they're allowing traffic to move until that protest goes there. But it's really now starting to dwindle in numbers. This started really around 3 this afternoon ahead of a 5:30 rally at Federal Plaza. That rally only lasted about 30 minutes, and then they were on the move again. They went through all the downtown streets. Chicago police were alongside them, stopping traffic, allowing them to shut down traffic and make sure that their voices are peacefully heard in this situation involving ICE agents and ICE activity across the nation. Again, this is happening during a busy evening.
Yeah, and Trey, you were in the dining district, a lot of dining al fresco. You can see the restaurants have been set up for outdoor dining, of course, because it's getting hot outside, and it seems like the demonstrators have gone through that area, and they're continuing to go. We're trying to get maybe in the area. And Eric is at Kinsey and Clark, so we're going to see if the protesters, they seemingly have turned the corner and now are headed in the direction where Eric is. Eric. how's it going?
Yeah, Cheryl, we're on Clark, just north of Kinsey. This may be the group that started coming back at Trey, as he was just talking about. Right now, I want to give you a vantage point of what we're seeing. They are headed south right now. As we were coming north on the Clark Street Bridge, Chicago Police they were closing off foot traffic on the bridge going north, trying to stop any additional protesters maybe from heading north. But now you've got these folks heading back south. I imagine Chicago Police will allow them back south over the river into the loop, back onto Wacker, perhaps if they're headed back to Federal Plaza, which is where they started. But at this point, I don't think there is a plan as to where they're going. And I think it's just sort of, they're just feeling it at the moment where they want to go at any given moment. So from our vantage point, it seems like it is thinning out. I know that's what Trey was mentioning before the crowd started coming back to him. But it is my sense that you do have folks starting to be siphoned off, and we are pushing after 7:30 here, and so people are starting to leave this crowd, but still a very energetic crowd. The folks that do remain here, you've got folks on bicycle, you've got folks mostly on foot. A lot of people holding signs, still chanting, going on 4 or 5 hours at this point. And now it seems that they are headed back into the loop over this bridge, the Clark Street Bridge. Chicago Police, I imagine, will let them through there. But, once they go over the river from there, it's anyone's guess where they're going to go.
Yeah, they might continue to just dissipate. This shot right here of Havana there is what you were talking about, Cheryl. This is a beautiful night in the city. People are downtown enjoying it. There are people sitting outside just enjoying a dinner.
Dining al fresco.
Dining al fresco. And these protesters, they're not messing with them. They're walking. They have a mission. They have a voice to be heard. And I just think that's notable to me.
Several restaurants were.
Yeah, they're just
enjoying a meal. It is dinner time.
You have a right as an American to protest peacefully, and that is what we're witnessing here firsthand. Now, there have been a few people taken into custody, and tonight at 10 we're going to get the latest from the police on how that unfolded. But you're looking here at these protesters marching down the street, and obviously there's one who's not happy we're there, and then you have people enjoying their dinner. It's a really unique setting.
Yeah, and they're marching back south now. Now, while we don't know how the police have strategized to meet with the protesters and the demonstrators, but they probably have some type of strategy because of the fact that they're now headed back to the direction that they started at the Federal Plaza. They've gone all the way east as they can go to the lakefront.
Yep.
They've come back west to as far as Clark and as far west as Dearborn and marched through back. And now they seem to be going in a square and heading back south in the same direction they came north on State Street. So we'll see where they're headed now. They might end up.
They may not even know where they're headed.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if they do. And they crossed those bridges that you'd mentioned. There were some very terrible protests years ago where they raised those. They wanted to keep, that's not what the police are doing here. They let them cross the river, and now they've come back across the river. And I think you're right. There is clearly a strategy by the Chicago police. Because one thing I'm noticing is they're there. I mean, the police are there on bikes. And what you cannot see is, and they won't, there are probably unmarked squad cars, dozens and dozens and hundreds and hundreds.
And protesters that are,
right.
They're police officers who are, not in uniform, that are walking along.
Right, plain clothes,
with
right.
the crowd.
But I think it's curious that the police presence is obvious, but it's not overwhelming. We're not seeing the riot gear that we've seen in years past, nor will we likely tonight, because it looks like, for the most part, these are peaceful protests from a lot of different people who want to make their voices known, and the Chicago police are letting them do just that. And it's good execution from law enforcement, ensuring the city is safe, and also that these people get a chance to voice what they want to protest.
And that's their right to freedom of speech and protesting and marching and showing how they feel. And Trey has been talking, he's been talking to lots of people about why they're part of this movement, why they wanted to be there tonight. And they're different ages, different genders, people with children, some without, and why they're there. And Trey has interviewed all of them to get their reasoning why, and it's been a cross-section of a lot of different people.
We've dropped the volume down for a reason here, because we were getting a good amount of curse words. We apologize for that. You might see some signs here that include offensive words. You know, we don't want to show that when we don't have to, but when you're covering live protests, that's going to happen, and so that's why we've dropped the audio a little bit down. But even this shot here, which was Eric's, I believe, we see that it's starting to thin out as the protesters continue to walk. And then on that left side there, that's the Chicago River. You do see, that gives you, look at all the officers. Okay, this is the first time we've seen a good amount of blue uniformed Chicago police officers there. But there is no urgency. There is no mass deployment of them to make sure these protesters go a certain way. I think they're just letting them make their voices known.
And perhaps that is the strategy.
Just
allow the demonstrations and play it by ear and see what happens and be there just in case they're needed. Of course, they blocked off the streets. You know, that has always been a strategy to, if they block certain streets off, that gives them direction for the demonstrators to go in a certain direction. And it seems to be working so far, peaceful marches and protesters going. We saw perhaps a couple of people who might have been taken into custody, or they were detained, but we're not sure what happened and what happened before they were taken into custody.
Yeah, that was that was probably 90 minutes ago when we saw the police had encircled at least one person, and then another we saw taken away. There's Eric, our reporter, who's walking, who we saw get taken away by police. We don't know if they were arrested or just detained, as you mentioned, Cheryl. But overwhelmingly, we've seen nothing but peace here and disruption. I mean, downtown Chicago traffic is not going to be pretty tonight in a lot of places. Although right outside our State Street, it's pretty clear now. Did they close it down? Because I don't see any cars now. I don't know if we can take that Potbelly cam again, Monica, and see what it looks like outside the Chicago Theater.
Yeah, a lot of
crowd. Yeah, no, I mean that's just like that's a normal Tuesday night, Cheryl, right? Cars moving along, and you see a couple. It's not uncommon to see police with their lights on, like that one there in the middle of your screen. And people are just enjoying their Tuesday night. It looks like the concert across the street's going to go off, and these protesters have moved past, and now they're in a different location.
A lot of restaurants in this area too, and like we said, they're doing dining al fresco because finally the weather is getting warmer, and people are going about their way as the demonstrators and the protesters take to the streets of Chicago. As you said, there was disruption.
Sure.
A lot of people on Lakeshore Drive. It was happening right in the midst of the rush hour time as well.
That's when it can get
people
dicey.
Were patient.
Yeah, right. That's when you get worried,
just
right?
kind of waited until there was a way to go.
Yeah, you saw that, and it's always concerning when there's large amounts of the non-protesters and the protesters, and that's when it can get a little dicey. It did not tonight. It did not. Well, we're glad you were with us tonight, as we did well over an hour here of breaking news coverage. Our thanks to Trey and Eric and the crews who are out there walking with these protesters, bringing us the latest. Sometimes they're harassed, but they do their job really well. We can't thank them enough. We got to learn more information too on arrests and some of the other things that happened tonight, and when this finally kind of ends, right?
Right, or they might still be out there
until
nightfall.
Right.
Sometimes that determines when a demonstration kind of comes to an end, when the night falls, and it's a little challenging.
Yeah. We'll be back on the air tonight at 10. Obviously, if anything happens urgent, we will come back here on the stream. Cheryl and I will. But join us for full coverage. Trey and Eric will stay out there. We'll also check in with Los Angeles, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. And their fifth night of protest there. So
protest,
we'll have
sure.
a full wrap-up coming up tonight on ABC 7 Eyewitness News at 10 o'clock. In the meantime,
this has